What is it that spoke to you the most? Not about the whole thing. The whole talk, not just about me. You can talk about me if you want to, but no. Where's the microphone? You have a thought?
About the service, sermon, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was. I had to think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. Somebody else. What do you think?
About the millennials and how to relate to them verbally. I think that's very important. If we're going to reach that generation, we've got to get there.
Our language has to be able to communicate.
Right.
Because we talk church speak. We understand it.
Right.
But translating it to a middle schooler or a high schooler, if I can get you to say that again in middle school language for me. Say that. How will you tell your grandchild that?
Yeah.
Start there. That might be a simple way to do it. Pastor, sir?
I would just say the idea of application, this theme of overall application for the year. Because I already focus on application of scripture, but to have a theme that kind of ties all of your messages in can truly hone in your study time, because things are going to immediately pop up into your mind and in your spirit instead of the slower process and not knowing where you're going.
If I told the pastor, give me 5 things your church needs, just 5 things, give me 5 issues that they need to hear about. Give me a theme for the year and then 5 things that would help them get to that theme. If they need to have the love of God, what 5 things you can do? What 5 steps can they take? Answer a question, solve a problem. Say that with me, please. Come on. Answer a question, solve a problem. Why should a person come listen to you? What is it that you're saying? You can't just rely on the moment you're in, because it's not about just me. If you notice in this event, it's not just me. I want you to be involved in this because I want you to own some of it. So anybody else have a part that spoke to you the most? Yes.
For me, it was when you mentioned having a plan, which meant creating the sermon ahead of time and sharing it with people to build leadership. Because we came out of a ministry, not Pastor Jen's ministry. He's a great guy, fabulous, nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, he's perfect. Yeah, I agree. I feel the anointing right now, right there. Don't forget it, okay? Wait, brother.
But the previous ministry, the pastor was very secretive and guarding of his sermon, because his excuse was, or I don't want to say excuse, but maybe that's what it was, is he wanted you to have fresh bread. So how dare he share that with you before Sunday when you could hear it for the first time?
And I understand that. Let me tell you, I've evolved to this person, you see, because I didn't understand that my job is not to necessarily wow you, but it's to bring you along with me. And it took a while, and it's very emotional when you're the preacher. There's an emotional side to this that is hard to explain. But when you do it every week, and you do it several times a week, you have to find a place of comfort in your heart. So that's good. Let me take you, if I can, to the next part of this and show you 5 tips that might help you with all this. The first one I've already told you. Okay. Preparation. Start early and work in pieces. Say that with me, please. Come on. Start early and work in pieces. The second thing, regarding your marriage and children. Now that's a whole other session, okay? We have to come back and spend a lot of time, and today is not the day to do that. But let me give you a tip. If you want to keep that under control, put them on the weekly calendar. Not the annual calendar. Not the quarterly calendar. It's every week. Then handling money. Ask for help. Open your world up to review. Every month, every week, we have a review financially on Thursdays. I get a financial review from my staff. Then once a month, we have an outside person that does not live here, that's not on my staff, that's an outside contractor, who gives me a summary of the finances. It's for the pastor. They do this whole thing, and they say, here's where your money is. And this person was a CPA, they're retired, but let me tell you, and if we spend too much, they get a little hot emails. What are you doing? Your current liabilities are. And what they did for me, which was really helpful, they set me down. It was so great. This is several years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Okay, Pastor, we're going to show you how to read a balance sheet, a profit loss, and cash flow. And so look at your balance sheet, Pastor. Now tell us how much money you have. I said, well, they say right there that I have $50,000 cash. That's right. You got $25,000 this account, $25,000 that account. But there's something called current liabilities, which is stuff you owe. The checks that ain't cleared yet, you know what I'm saying? All that, that's 25,000, so really you only got 25,000, Pastor, and you need to have at least 30,000 a month. See, that's how they talk to me, and here's what they said: you poor soul, that's not how much money you have. It was so great, and in that moment, it was great. And every year we have an annual review. That is so helpful from an outside auditing firm. There's something about knowing that I'm going to be reviewed, the process, and we need to somehow allow somebody to know. If you're taking the checkbook and put it in your office, we need to pray. All right, here we go. Number four. So ministry tensions. View them as growing pains and don't always attack when you feel it. Don't go into war mode. Don't call them the devil when they ask you a question. Let people talk to you. Some people go too far, you can adjust them lovingly, but understand the balance. And then ministry expectations. Serve and grow within your ability. Matthew 25:15. He gave the talents according to their ability. Don't make this about you being like somebody else. I didn't say these things for you to be exactly like me. I just told you what I do. And the goal is to help you see. Now, here's what's going to be challenging. For you to take this information and use it. There's some thieves. There's a book called The Power of One Thing. And it talks about the power of focusing on one thing. So you can read the book if you want, and research, but let me give you the 4 robbers or thieves of being productive. You ready? Number 1, you can't say no. You say yes to too many things. As a matter of fact, the successful people say no more than they say yes. The fear of chaos. Chaos comes with success. Some of you are having strife, but that's because you're growing. All right, we're getting everybody stirred up in here. You know, it's hallelujah. Oh boy, they're paying attention now. You know, this is sometimes chaos. Look at Jesus' ministry. There are moments it was chaotic. So don't always think that's bad. You know, it can be bad if it's not managed right, but it is part of life. Number 3, poor health habits. Say that with me, please. Come on. Poor health habits. You can really say that if you wanted to. Come on. Poor health habits. You're saved, you're sanctified, you love God, but you are horrible at what you eat, you don't exercise, you can't run from the devil if he chased you. I want you to think about this. This is not good. This is not good. And then what's amazing, if you're full-time in the ministry, explain that. You're full-time? You don't have any time to work out? Never? I was on the plane, Thursday. It was so funny. This lady from France was on the plane, and they were taking this thing down at the luggage, and I said, "Ma'am, you want me to help you?" She says, "No, I go to the gym." I didn't tell you about that. It was great. She says, "I go to the gym," with the French accent. I said, "All right, go on with your bad self." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I thought, what a great story. That's what Jesus people should be saying. Amen. I go to the gym. Like, what do you think? I laughed. She laughed too, and I laughed. I like that. That's great. You can do better than this. When's the last time you had physical? Do you know your blood numbers? Do you know your blood work? Come on. What in the world? You know, I mean, simple things. You know, Christians don't floss because they're saved. You know, it's like, really? You're saved, so you don't floss your teeth. You got grits in there and cheese from last week. They talk to each other. "Hey there, how long you been in here?" "I've been here for 4 weeks. I know my cousin, he died, he was in here for about a year. Yes, sir, he went up in the gums, though. He was dead, black, all this ugly. I tell you, what are you doing? And then you go to the dentist and you don't know what happened. You go in there praying and asking God and talking to Jesus and speaking in tongues. You need to floss. You need to try. You need the things you can do. You're asking God to deliver you from this toothache. The Lord said, if you don't do it, I'm coming out. The tooth is trying to tell you something. I'm going to come out. All right, here you go. You better brush me. That sounds so simple. You tell your kids that. But if you look at what do we end up praying about? The simple things in life. The trials we don't have to have. If you're going to have trouble, have trouble. That's part of life. If it's going to happen, but don't let it be because you didn't do your part. Why can't you walk 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week? tell Jesus why. Why? But you can talk on the phone, you can watch your favorite show, you can go to church, it's not, we don't get it sometimes. And lastly, an environment that doesn't support your goals. Sometimes you're with people that will never get you where you want to go.
Amen.
The people you talk with, the people you hang with they're not spiritually committed to growing, they're not wealth builders, they don't care. They're lost in some land. And that's why they live on this tightrope and they're frustrated. And they won't survive the ministry they love. Sometimes what's really tragic is you love this, but if you don't manage it right, it can be the thing that hurts you most. And so balance is important. So here's what we're going to do for the last 12 minutes or so. I brought my wife with me, and I thought it'd be fun for you to hear her voice. So Diane, come up here and let them hear your sweet, wonderful, kind, prophetic voice. She's so gifted. Give her a big hand. Make me feel good. We do this. She preaches for me when I'm gone. Sometimes she's a great preacher. She really is, and she is smart as all get out. She's amazing, and it was her idea that I talk about balance. And so what I'm going to do for a minute, tell them why you told me that I should do a series on balance. Remember you told me this?
Yes, I've been, of course, being married to the preacher. I tend to go to a lot of conferences and church services and so forth. And there's a face of the pastor and ministry that you see in front of the congregation. But then there's another face that you see backstage. There's another face and a view that you see in their homes, and if you go to dinner and all of that. And one of the things that really got me was in some environments, especially as churches grow, when it comes to the preacher's kids, the kids are basically raised by somebody and they're on display and all these various things that I would see. And so we made a decision that when our kids were little, we would raise our own kids, have individuals help every now and then, but we'd make sure we raise our own kids. And our speech was, if they turned out crazy, we know we did it. We can't say, they were sacred, they can't blame God. It's like, no, we raised, 2 crazy kids. And so it was just certain things that we just agreed on while the church was still small. And so I noticed things that he did that others did not do. And so I said it's some unique way in which he has done this piece that's ministry, strong marriage, and still have 2 adult kids who really like hanging with us, which is, we got it in honor. And so his ability to balance all of that was unique, and I felt it needed to be shared with other pastors.
Let me say, our kids are not perfect by any means. They're not perfect people. They make mistakes, and they are. We've had. I always say God is the perfect parent. Look at some of his kids. So I don't want you, if you've had challenges with your kids, to feel that you're not a good parent. But I do want you to know that there are things that you can do that can make it a lot easier. So give me some specific things that you think I did. You want to try and say that?
Yeah, let's see.
Hit the button. Is that it? Yeah, swap it out. There you go. All right, go for it.
Okay, I would say when it comes, especially with the kids, something that you made just plain to us even at the start was God was first, your family was second, and church was third. And often a lot of family, pastors, kids, and especially the spouse feel like, okay, he's doing this for the church. You can't bother him right now, or someone from the church is calling and all of that. And so you made it plain that, of course, God is always number one, but your family was next.
Now, what we'll do for the next 9 minutes, you get to ask Diane questions. She's in the hot seat. Whatever you want to ask her about.
Make it easy. It's Saturday.
Because a man can talk about balance all he wants to. But go for it, people. What do you want to ask her about?
And if I could throw in one more thing that you did also is that you allowed me to put various things on the calendar that piece that he said when it came about the family and putting it on the calendar. So when our kids were little, whether it was PTA meeting or the circus was in town or whatever, I was able to put it on the calendar, and it wasn't, well, I have to erase it because I have a council meeting, or sister so-and-so is crying in the corner, and I can't go with you to the circus. He'd say, okay, sister so-and-so, I'll talk to you for a minute, but I'm taking my kids to the circus, and so we didn't ever get booted off the calendar. He actually had God First Family then ministry.
Somebody else, ask a question, something you wonder about. Yes, right here. Oh, yeah, there you go, This is yours, and go for it. Not you? Oh, go for it.
Okay, what of the areas that he's had to develop this in, what has been the most difficult that he's had to really apply himself consistently to, and why do you think that was?
Like all pastors, he loves people. And so he doesn't want to disappoint people. He would like to help them and all of that. But then there are some individuals, when you have those same individuals going around in a circle and they're having the same problem over and over and over again. And so I think the most difficult thing for him was to counsel a person over and over again. They're still, not listening, and have to say, God, you know what? I'm moving on to somebody else. That's been the hardest thing for him.
Somebody else, anything you want to ask her? A question? About this whole issue? Yes, in the back? Go ahead, Lauren.
As a wife and a mom, it is sometimes really trying to get the man to understand, under God, I'm your priority.
Mhm.
How do you make that an issue without making it an issue?
Okay. Something that I said
I'll let
that was
you
a
have
bit strong, but to me it's true. I share with him, I love everybody in the church and the deacons and the leaders and all of that, but I will be your wife always. You won't be the pastor of this church always. At some point in time, someone else is going to be the pastor. And so you have to, I've got your back. Now, one of the things that I've discovered that really is helpful to him is for him to know that I'm going to be supportive regardless of his decision. Even if I'm not in agreement with the decision, I have to follow the biblical mandate that God has given me. So biblical mandate God has given me is as a wife, I'm his helpmate, I'm his support. I do what he leads. He doesn't have to worry about me booting him out the way and say I can do a better job. So he doesn't have to worry about that. And sometimes I have to reassure him that I'm holding fast to my biblical conviction as a wife. Then as a member of his church, I can't use the wife card, even though I'm tempted to do it sometimes, I have to understand that he's also my pastor. And so whatever it is, he's the leader of the church. I give suggestions, I watch his back, all of that. But if he said, well, I've heard you, but I still would like to go in this direction, then I don't need to be back there, doing things, uppercutting him. I need to be supportive. And so that's what I've done. And so that brings a lot of comfort to him. He doesn't have to worry about the elders and the deacons and your wife, not being in support of you. I tell him all the time, no, I got it. Even if nobody else is right, I love Deacon so-and-so, but your wife I'm gonna have your back always.
The challenge on my side of the river is I can't be a know-it-all. I have to, if I'm going to do well, I have to be willing to submit to review, be accountable, and I have to be willing to consider. If my wife doesn't like it, or if an elder, why can't I think about it? What does it hurt me? Ephesians 4:21, right? Not just verse 22. Wives, it's not that, it's verse 21. Submit you to one another. There are times when she has insights and thoughts that are fair to listen to. Not with, okay, go ahead and get it off. Get off your chest down. Just say what you got to say. Because in the end, you're going to submit, hallelujah. That's not what we should be. It should be that I am hearing, balancing yourself on this tightrope. There are moments that are scary. You've seen me and you've been concerned about me. You were concerned about, I don't know what you're going to say, but pray. What are you going to say? You were concerned about...
Sometimes I think one of the greatest concerns I've seen is if I felt like your leaders are not giving you all the information, so you're making decisions based upon a fraction of the information. You know, people don't necessarily tell the pastor everything because they don't want to look bad in the pastor's eyes, you know, so they tell the pastor all what I call the smooshy stuff, you know, and I'm behind there saying, I know it's more information. He's making a decision based upon the information given.
And then I think another thing to add to that is sometimes, let's talk about abuse with money. There are times when I'm far more of a risk taker and I'm an entrepreneur than she is. She's safety, save. Me, let's go do it, conquer the world. And I think a person like me with that kind of power without a check and a balance is dangerous. I think you need to have people in your life, if you're going to stay balanced, because you can't see, especially the bigger it gets. The higher up you go, the less you can see. You're up here, but you can't see back there. And you can. Why don't I listen to you? Why don't I give you a voice in my life? I cannot stay balanced if I cut her out, cut you out, and cut people out. I'm going to fail. And many big churches up close, when you zoom in, Al Clark knows what I'm talking about, when you zoom in close. The problem was, no one wanted to be accountable. This is intoxicating. You can get high on this. I call it, when you get up here, I call it celebrity training. I think that's the clip you saw. I talked about the importance of having training and how to be important and how to be humble. Because here's that. Remember the time you told me, this is amazing, I was preaching this big place, I had this great event, and I came home and you told me to take the trash out?
So I needed my husband, I didn't need the pastor who ministered to thousands of people. I needed my husband to take the trash out because the sun had gone down. It was dark.
I love you. Give her a big hand, people. I got 2 minutes, and Pastor, you want to ask a question?
I just wanted to ask about your schedule. You know, how do you balance the dynamics of that kind of ministry or that level of ministry? You know, we're moving towards these kind of levels of ministry.
Well, let me tell you what you do. First of all, you let everybody help you. You let everybody help you. Thursday I was in, where was that? Thursday I was in Virginia. Wednesday, I'm sorry, I was in Virginia Wednesday. Thursday I was in Atlanta. Friday I flew to be in Orlando, and here I'm here Saturday morning. And I preached a 5 o'clock Saturday service. I got 2 weeks to tomorrow. But I'm off Monday. And Tuesday. Hey. Work out Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, you want to come on? You want to ask? Come on, go for it.
Okay, he had a marathon week, but we believe in templates. And so I'd say, for example, Monday, ever since we had a much smaller congregation, he called it Diane's Day. So even when our kids were little, Monday was Diane's Day. So we would go to breakfast, lunch, dinner, but if it was time to get the kids, it's okay, we got to go to the bus stop. But it was always, that's the day where we went out, went to the movies, whatever. And it's still that way. Even when he went back and forth to California, and everybody wondered, how in the world are you going to do that? Monday, even if we were in LA on Monday was Diane's Day, and we went to dinner and movies and did absolutely nothing. That was the template. Usually Tuesday is a lot of administrative work, administrative planning, adjusting the calendar, all of that. Wednesday, I believe you called Wednesday your special day of prayer and additional study. Thursday is usually his people day. And so he would make all his various phone calls back and forth on Thursdays. Then on Fridays, loose ends. And then Saturday was whatever the kids wanted to do. So he went to Chuck E. Cheese a whole lot while they were young. Went to ball games, concerts, all those various things. And of course we still had those all throughout the week. But that's a general template that we followed, and of course it's not the Bible, so sometimes we had to tweak it. But when you have something like your sermon titles that you were preparing for, you know, that was a basic template. So he was able to handle a lot of that. And then even if he traveled, he was rarely gone more than 3 days. And I was voted in by his kids. his kid said, Dad, I think, he said, how long do you think I can go and it'll be fine? And of course, I think it was our daughter that spoke up first. She said, Dad, 3 days. And so even to this day, even though they're not in the house, our house is nice and clean and quiet, it's just wonderful. It's basically 3 days maximum unless he's overseas. And even if he's overseas, I think 2 weeks max, but most of the time it's more like 10 days even when he's overseas.
And the point is, you gotta put limits in. And you gotta put limits in. If you don't, it gets out of control. And you just can't let it become. Now, I'm 201, Pastor, who else has a question that you want? One, is that it? Okay, I'll let you answer this because I wanna make sure I'm obedient to the policies, and I'm a minute over here, but go ahead.
When you first started being a pastor, were you did you have a second job? Or were you just a full-time pastor?
I was a broke full-time pastor. And they paid me $150 a week when I started, and I supplemented that with preaching and engagements, and did that, got up to like $1,200 a month. That was my top. And then they gave me a raise. I went to $200 a week. I was rolling in cash. And then I worked my way up. For a season, I had to work as a stocker. After I graduated from Bible college, I had to work a night shift to make up the money to get into another apartment. I had to live with my mother-in-law, who was in town. The church I'm in was started by my mother-in-law. It was 45 people when I came, or thereabout. And they were meeting in a new building they had just rented. And they didn't have the money to pay me housing. So for 6 months, I stayed with her until we gathered up the money, and I worked and did all the things I could to gather the money up. So I understand that starting process. I hope, did I answer your question? I hope I did.
Yes.
Yeah, I stock shelves at M&M Groceries on the dog food aisle. And today, this is true, today, I don't go down the dog food aisle. Today, honestly, I don't, unless I have to. Those 10-pound bags, I remember them in Jesus' name, those trucks. I'm telling you, I feel, every time I see somebody stocking the shelf, I say, how you doing? I used to do that. I used to do that. So, yeah. Thank you for letting me come. Thank you for listening to me. I hope I said something that helped you today. And I hope more than anything that you get on that tightrope and balance it. We're not perfect people. We've had struggles. We still have struggles. We're working through things, growing. But that's part of the chaos of success. There's always a need. There's always issues with people. But here's the deal. If you're healthy, you'll lead healthy people. Thank you for having me. God bless.
All right, so, my. I was at the other one last night. That was even better and fantastic. You had to get something out of that. I mean, you had to get something out of that. And here's Sister Temple speaking. I appreciated that. I really did.